Hey there, I'm Priscilla. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm glad that you're here. The Chat with Priscilla, that's where you've come. It's a place where we just have chats, conversations about things that I hope will be impactful to you, informative, challenging sometimes, or just plain old flat out fun. So today I want you to have a lot of fun. Pull up a chair, grab your favorite hot beverage, cozy up, and let's talk today on The Chat with Priscilla. Stay tuned. Okay, I had a friend of mine who is single say to me recently, Priscilla, I do not think I want to get married. And I said to her, why? Why don't you want to get married? And she said, because all of the married people around me make marriage look miserable. Every time I'm talking to them about what it is to be married, they're just complaining or they're whining about something. They are the worst advertisers for marriage. And have you ever had people talk to you about marriage and it just sounds depressing, right? So I'm listening to my friend and I'm thinking, man, we got to find a way to be better advertisers for marriage, because we need to be in marriages where we're happy and content and fulfilled. So while I was thinking about this, I came across this little book by a woman who is writing about what it means to just be a happy wife. And I've been very intrigued by everything that she's discovered, as she has literally traveled around the globe, as she's gone to different cultures, different races, different backgrounds. She wanted to find as many happy wives as she could, and then try to figure out what was the common thread that made these women content in their role as wives. So listen, whether you are a single woman or you are a married woman, you are going to want to stay tuned as we interview an incredible woman who really is changing the way marriage looks. Would you please help me to welcome Fawn Weaver to the program today. Hi, Fawn. Hello. Come on in. Have a seat.
Thank you.
Cozy yourself up in those pillows there, my friend. We have a lot of talking to do, because there are a lot of women who are very, very unhappy in their marriages. And I want to talk to you first of all about why you even went out on this quest to find out what makes a happy marriage. Why was that even important to you?
Well, a part of it is because I knew you and I weren't the only ones who were happily married. And I had so many friends around me who actually were happily married. And as you said, there's so many that are bad advertisements. And then all of the ones that were happily married are not advertising at all, just completely silent. So you really just had one side of the demographic that's telling the entire story.
They're just the vocal ones.
They're the vocal ones. So you have 53% of marriages that succeed, 47% that fail, and all eyes are on that 47%. And I said, I want to know what the top 10% of that 53% is doing.
Okay, do you think that media, do you think that movies, entertainment, do you think that it is controversial and good TV to sort of highlight the bad, and so that's why we're also seeing more of that kind of broadcasted out there for us to see?
I think it's twofold. I think that number one, when you meet folks in Hollywood, so many of them are miserable. So what they're writing about is truly their lives, but Hollywood isn't reality. So you have the people behind the scenes that are really playing out their lives in front of the camera. That's a part of it. The other part of it is happy doesn't sell. Drama sells.
Drama sells.
The miserable wife, the nagging wife, the annoying wife, and the cheating husband, that sells. It sells magazines, it sells television shows, it sells everything that there is to be sold.
So you decided you're going to figure out how to highlight the top 10% of the 53% of wives that are happy in their relationships.
And I'm just randomly choosing a 10% number. So it was just the top portion of that are genuinely happy. This doesn't mean the ones that sweep things under the rug and pretend that everything is okay when they're in the public. I mean the ones that behind closed doors, every person in the community, every person in their family would say, they're the real deal. That couple right there has been happily married 25 years or more. They've got something to teach you.
Okay, how are you defining happy?
I'm defining happy the way anyone else would define happy. Whatever makes you happy.
So just feeling whole, content, satisfied with what you have.
I think there's a difference between satisfied and happy, though.
Okay, come on.
Because I know plenty of people that are satisfied, but you would not necessarily say that they would not describe themselves as happy. So for instance, you have so many that compare their marriages to other marriages. And if they just focused on their own marriage and their own relationship, they would be happy there.
So
but then
water your own grass, sort of
you better
thing.
believe it. But then when you compare what you have to someone else's, you compare your real life to their highlights. You never...
Because everybody's Instagramming their highlights.
Yeah.
You do know that, right? What we're seeing on Instagram has 18 different filters.
Absolutely.
And it was the highlight of their day or their week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so you're comparing it to the highlight. So when you're talking about how do you define happiness, I say this. When you look at yourself and you ask yourself, what makes me happy? And then figure out, do you have those things? And not meaning things like things you buy.
Yeah, virtues.
Absolutely.
Attributes of life that
Yeah.
make you happy. Okay,
Yeah.
so you decide you were going to not just interview the people that live in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You decided to go on a real huge,
I did.
vast journey. What did that
did.
look like, and how did you choose the places in the world where you went?
Well, I chose the places that I went based on people that I knew around the world.
Okay.
So I reached out to people. I was in the hotel industry before, and so I knew so many people from around the world, and I would reach out and say, this is what I am trying to do. I am trying to find that couple. I mean, literally that couple that everyone will point to and say, if we could all have a marriage like that couple, that's who we want.
Like they're still holding hands.
They're still holding hands.
Yeah, still
and
looking at each other.
they've been through everything. They've been through, you know, infertility, miscarriages. They've been through finances high, finances low.
Yeah.
They've been through everything. And 25 years later, they are still looking into each other's eyes. They're laughing at each other's jokes. They're not tearing each other's down. They won't hang out around anyone who tears their spouse down. I want to get to those people. And so I reached out to everyone and said, point me to those two couples. And I would get on a plane and fly to wherever that country was that they were in.
Where'd you go?
I started in Canada,
Okay.
and I went to South Africa, and then I went to Mauritius, I went to the Philippines, to New Zealand, to Australia, to, gosh, where else did I go? I don't want to forget any of these. London, Croatia, Rome. I was all over the place. And the thing that was fascinating to me is I went to 6 different continents. Y'all, Antarctica, there's no one there. I tried. I really
Happy,
tried.
sad, nobody.
I tried.
Anybody there
mean,
is one thing, cold.
It's cold.
That's it.
It's cold.
Yeah.
I tried to do all 7 continents, and finally I reached back out to my publisher. I said, guys, that 7th continent, not going to happen. But on those 6 continents, what made a wife happy and a husband happy was the same. No matter the background, no matter the religion, no matter where you were raised, how much you have in the bank, the principles were the same. And there were 12 common denominators.
Okay, give us a few of those. We're sitting on the edge of our seat.
Ah!
What makes a happy spouse in marriage?
Well, this is the interesting thing. The number one thing when I would sit down with the wives or the couples, for most of the time I sat down with couples, if I asked the question, what is that one thing, if you told me write one thing in this book and do not forget it, what is that one thing that I cannot forget to say? Almost every single one, the very first thing that would come out of their mouth, mutual respect.
Mutual respect.
Mutual. It's got to go both ways.
Now, you know, that's kind of interesting. It's interesting to me because I would expect that maybe the wife would think that her husband needs respect.
Yes, yes.
But then I would think that his response might revolve around something else.
Right, you would think. Let me tell you. So this is the funny thing, that when you sit down with happily married women, there is a connecting dot between all of the women that I sat down with. They were all strong.
Okay.
They all knew who they were, and every single one of them, no matter where they were in life, no matter how great their careers were. I interviewed one woman who was one of the top plastic surgeons in the world. She was married to a judge, and to watch them dote over each other was the best thing ever. Because when you are a strong woman, you realize doting over your husband doesn't make you weak.
That's right. That's
and
right.
that respect, because you're giving it, they want to give it back. And so for every wife that I sat down with, it was almost instantaneous what would come out of their mouth, mutual respect.
Okay, so then that means The flip side of the coin of that, if happiness in a relationship and contentment and fulfillment is found in mutual respect, that means the flip side of the coin is that those who are in an unhappy place in their life, one of the reasons could be that they're not respecting their spouse. They don't have enough security in and of themselves that they're able to build up and dote over and lift up that other individual because there's an insecurity in them that causes there to be maybe competition.
Absolutely. And then you end up in a home with competing spouses, which is completely unnecessary. You're to be on the same team. So when you sit down with couples that have been happily married for 25 years or more, the big difference between those that are happily married and those that are unhappily married when they go through challenges is those that are unhappily married, when they're going through a challenge, they go in opposite directions of each other. They start pointing swords at each other. The couples that are happily married, they go through the exact same challenge, but the difference is they team up together and they turn their swords against the challenge.
Okay, so they see themselves as a unit as opposed to you, me. Let's fight it our own unique ways.
Well, I was doing a talk for a financial seminar, and this was a little while ago, right after the book came out. And one of the financial advisors said, you know, we get so many couples in here that are on the brink of divorce, and it has to do with their finances and all of the money problems that they're having. And so what would you say is something that keeps couples together even when they're having financial challenges? And the story I told him is the first time I came into Nashville. You've come into Nashville when it's been raining outside, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm coming into Nashville. This was my first experience. And we're coming in, and it says we're going to have slight turbulences. So we're coming in, and literally the plane just, whoosh, and keeps going. Whoosh. I don't know how far we were dropping, but the poor guy sitting in the center seat was sweating. He had on headsets, and he's just like,
poor thing.
And it keeps doing that. I turn around and look at the flight attendant, and she's like, la, 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 la. And I mean, we start going through these turbulences, and as we get closer, she starts coming through the aisle to pick up trash. Everyone on that plane thinks they're about to lose their life. The difference is she already knows the ending. She knows that 99% of those planes that go through those kind of turbulences are going to land, and they're going to land just fine. So she had been through it so many times, it wasn't a big deal. And so for so many couples, the real big difference between is we were both on the same plane. This guy sweating who thought he was going to lose his life, and this woman who's like, anyone have trash? Trash, anyone? Can I pick up your trash? Same exact situation. It's how you handle it that makes the difference.
All right, well, Fawn Weaver's taking out the trash today in all of our marriages. Yes, she is. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Priscilla, and I wanted to take an opportunity to invite you personally to join me for a 7-session Bible study on the armor of God. We'll dive deeply into what it means to be equipped to stand firm against the schemes of the enemy. He is very real, and he has been so strategic and targeted in his attacks against us. Why shouldn't we be equally strategic and targeted in standing firm against him? And you and I have an opportunity to suit up, to put on some armor that works, and to go to battle and to see victory declared in our lives and in the lives of those people that we love. This Bible study will be one that will change our lives forever and will help us to walk in victory. So plan to join me, won't you? The Armor of God. Hey there, welcome back. We've been having a very interesting conversation with Fawn Weaver, who's the author of incredible books, one of which is called The Argument-Free Marriage. We all need to get a hold of that one, don't we? But also the Happy Wives Club, and that's really what we're talking about today. There are nearly 1 million women that have literally joined the Happy Wives Club. You can too at thehappywivesclub.com, and it enables you to just be connected with other women who are choosing happiness in their marriages and in their lives. And we are learning some of the principles about what it means to be a happy wife from this woman who traveled all around the globe, literally, to talk about couples who are happy. I'm really intrigued and want to just sit for just a few minutes on this topic of a woman doting on, building up the ego, really, of a guy.
Absolutely.
I don't think that we really realize the power and the strength and the benefit that comes back to us.
Yes.
When we really build that guy up. That ego is serious business, isn't it?
It's serious business, and it's so fragile.
Yeah.
It's so fragile. And so when people ask me, you know, with the issue of really connecting with your spouse and how do you get your spouse to truly trust you, this fragile ego, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And being able to lift your spouse up, being able to, and for women especially, and we were saying this during the break, I don't really know when it happened. I'm 39, I'll be 40 next year. And so the first two waves of the feminist movement kind of were before us. But when I sat down with one of the women, I said, what do you think it is? And she was there for every wave of the feminist movement. And she said, here's the problem with the feminist movement, with all of the good that it did, and I believe that it did good. Yeah. The problem is that they told us that our children were to be number one. We take care of ourselves, we take care of our children. If we put our husbands out at the front door, it didn't matter. But we would never do that to our kids. And so she said, with all of the good that was there, the problem is we still have not unwound from that point where we put ourselves and our kids first and we put our husbands behind all of that. And the problem with that is if you've ever met a woman who is happily married, you got two here, y'all. If you've ever met a woman who is genuinely happily married, there is not a better life. Yeah, there really is not a better life. And this is a part of that, is being able to lift your spouse up, lift your husband up, and to know that it does not make you weak. If you say, my husband is the best thing since sliced bread, it builds him up, but it also builds you up as well.
It's almost like you call the hero out of him.
Yes, you do.
If he knows that you believe that he is your hero and that you count on him as your hero and that you need him, even though you know you could do it yourself. But you are saying to him, I need you. And you let him be in a place of need and necessity in your life, then it's like they rise to the occasion.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Time.
So the first, probably the number one thing you think that helps to solidify a happy marriage is mutual respect, but even a step beyond that, making sure that you are building into and sowing into the life of your spouse.
Absolutely. So, and that's a part of that. Mutual respect is in there. But also, when I would ask the couples, what is the number one thing? Almost every single time it was mutual respect. But then every now and again there would be another one that would come up, but they would be interchangeable. Okay. The second one was trust. So every couple would either say mutual respect and then trust, or they would say trust and then mutual respect. Okay. And the reason why that plays a role is when you are building up your spouse, going back to this, because it's really important, when you're building up your spouse and when you're creating this environment that allows for your spouse to be able to share anything with you, then you are creating this sanctuary in your home where they don't want to be anywhere else. That is where they feel the safest. And for so many that are unhappy, it's because they haven't created a safe place for their spouse. And men need a safe place. If they don't have it in you, they will find it in a cave somewhere.
So, an emotional cave.
An emotional
that
cave.
they will run to
they
instead
will
of
run to you instead of running to you.
Okay, but what if you can't trust your spouse?
Well, that's a problem.
What if he has done enough things that you're in a position where honestly you don't trust, or maybe it's the flip side, that maybe it hasn't been physical infidelity on your part or anything, but it's maybe that you've talked so much to your girlfriends or others about things that your husband thought were private in your marriage, even though to you it's not a big deal what you're talking about, but to him he feels violated. So now he doesn't trust. So if you're in a position of distrust right now in your relationship, how do you even begin this path toward trust? What you're saying is the number two most important thing that you need to even begin to be happy.
Yeah, well, it depends on how deep that wound is. So if it's something where your spouse has said something to you and you made the mistake of repeating it to someone else and it came back to them and that broke that trust between you, well, that's something you can work out by just being trustworthy from that point on until they know, okay, so I can trust again. And that could take time. That could take years. You made that bed, now you're going to lie in it and you're going to have to be consistent, right? If the broken bond was through infidelity or something of that nature, this book isn't going to help you. Counseling.
Ain't nothing wrong with counseling.
There is nothing wrong with counseling.
Yeah, it's like if you have a car Well, you take it in to get the oil changed every now and then.
Absolutely.
You don't have to wait until it completely breaks down.
Yes.
There's a consistent place that you take it to keep it functioning well.
Absolutely.
So we can do that with our marriages as well, without shame.
We absolutely can. The thing that was interesting about this particular book, and I think what makes it very different from most marriage books, is for most marriage books, they're trying to help you to go from broken to whole. And I looked at all of the books and I said, but what about for those who have a good marriage or an okay marriage and they just want to take it from good to great?
Or what about those who are single?
Hello.
They ain't even met him yet, or they have met him, they're soon to be married.
Yes.
I think this is so wise.
Yes.
I mean, don't you wish that there are a whole lot of things people should have told us when we were single, right? So that we could have been prepared to be to live wisely when we were married. You've been married how long?
12 years.
You've been married for 12 years, and I want you to tell us, because you began to talk about a few moments ago about this issue of when there's a hurdle to get over, a challenge to get over, not pointing swords at each other, not going to our own quarters, but coming together and then facing the challenge head on together.
Absolutely.
There has been a huge challenge in your marriage that the two of you have had to face head on. Tell us about that.
Well, we were talking about this earlier. 12 years in, we don't have children, and it's not because we don't want them. And so it has been a journey of discovering, okay, why don't we have children? And there actually is a physical problem. So for so many people, they go, oh, just stop thinking about it and you'll get pregnant. Okay, well, that works for some. For others, the doctors will be very clear, that's not going to work for you. We fall into that latter category. And so it's been the trials of that process. But here's the thing, because I've met a lot of women that have also gone through infertility challenges. And now I want to say that we're maybe about to go through our 5th cycle of this, right? And I would say the biggest difference I see between those who are able to remain happily married through it and those who are not, because the divorce rate is higher when infidelity is involved. Infertility is involved. The thing that I see that is the largest difference is that for my husband and me, we did not look at this and say, we need children to be happy. We had always decided that we would be happy with our family of 2. So when people say, I want to go home and see my family, if I'm traveling, I'm going home to see my family. Oh, how many kids do you have? Oh, my husband. We're happy with our family of 2.
But surely you had to get your heart to that place, Vaughn, because for a woman, there is nothing that can be more emotionally crippling than this longing inside of a woman that desires to have children and is struggling through that. So surely this is not something that you're able to just kind of roll out of the bed and decide to be happy about, even though I know it's a conscious choice. But surely this has been a difficult journey for you. How do you have to practically continue down the road to happiness, despite the fact that things haven't turned out, you know, the way that you'd like them to up to this point?
I think my desire for God's will in my life is greater than my desire for what other people say is important for a woman.
Or even more important than your own
desires. So if He wanted us to have children, we've done every step. Believe you me, we don't have any problems in the bedroom. We've done every step there is. And if the Lord wanted us to have kids, we'd have kids. We do not have kids. That's His call. And my mom,
trust God.
I absolutely trust God.
That's the bottom line.
It's and we believe that if we are to have children, it just means that up until this point, it wasn't meant to be. So I'll give you for instance. We went through the process of adopting. We still don't have a child. So we went through the process of a closed adoption. And for those who don't know, the way that this process works is you have a middleman, if you will, that has a mom, and for whatever reason, whether it's the courts or anything else, that mother cannot raise that child. And so we were looking to adopt, and this particular mom, she already had 3 children. All 3 were being raised by her mother. She was young. This was the 4th. She was pregnant. And so we went through the entire process, and you pay for that person to live for the entire 9 months that they are pregnant. But until the moment that that child is in your hands and papers are signed, and then there is a 3-day waiting period.
Just in case she changes her mind.
Just in case she changes her mind. So
you're on pins and needles for months and days. And
we have gone into the carpet store, rolled around on the carpet. Oh, this will be perfect for the baby. We have done the baby room. There is a crib that is in there. There's a rocking chair that is in there. The entire room is done. We do not have a child. And it was interesting because for, I think, so many, that's a moment that couples can begin fighting. They can begin arguing. It can become this really big deal. And we looked at each other and we just kind of, it's like the Martina McBride song, God's Will.
Yeah.
Do you know that song? I love that song. We just looked at each other and said, it clearly isn't the time. And we moved on. And
so it's a choice.
It is, happiness is a choice. It is a moment by moment decision that you make every single day, in every situation, in every scenario. It is a decision that you have to make.
And I want you to hear her clearly. She's not making light of the tragedies that could happen in your life or in your marriage, because there are many things that really can wipe you out emotionally.
Absolutely.
And yet, no matter what the scenario is,
it's a choice.
You still have to choose, how am I going to react to what has happened to me? How am I going to respond? What kind of path am I going to walk down?
And what is the lesson that there is to be learned in it? Through every test, there is a lesson. We don't just get tests for the sake of being tested. So what is the lesson to be learned? And for us, we look at every single test and go, okay, so this is a test. But the thing is, we haven't stopped trying.
Yeah.
And so we
you're still walking down that path?
We're still walking down that path. But in the interim, we're going to be happy. We're going to be happy. We're going to enjoy being married, and we're going to enjoy our time together.
That's good. Well, there's so much more that you could learn, and I could learn, of course, about what it means to be happy. But in the meanwhile, you can join the Happy Wives Club. You should, and you need to get your hands on this book, because it really is blessing a lot of people, and I know really inspiring people towards happiness in their relationships. Yeah. So that we can be a good commercial for marriage. You know?
Good commercial. Good advertisement.
We need to. We need to be. So you did mention something a minute ago that we're going to get to in part 2. You mentioned just the good things happening in the bedroom. I don't want to talk about those specifically, but I do know that somewhere on this list there has to be something having to do with the physicality of relationships. So we can't even begin to walk down that road right now.
Yes.
But we will when we come back. This is just part 1 of a conversation that we're going to continue having in part 2. But for now, would you please help me to thank this incredible woman for joining us today? Come on, y'all, let's thank Fawn Weaver.